and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot.
Let me introduce to you guys Duke Sullivan. Ryan Duke Sullivan is a Bigfoot researcher from Montana, USA. After his sightings in 1972 and again in 1977, Duke has been researching Bigfoot for well over 40 years and has multiple sightings. Duke has been to various states for research, as well as living in and doing local research in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Florida, Texas, Wyoming, and now Montana. We got anybody from Montana here? Oh, just Duke. Duke is the first researcher to bring the possible existence of cryptids known as mountain giants and googly to the public's attention for the first time. Duke is the founder and the host of the World Bigfoot radio show on YouTube and other platforms, which is a document. Yeah, go ahead and give it up for they like the platform, dude. Which is a documentary style format with heavy stress on showing the evidence from legitimate researchers across the world. He has appeared on several radio shows and podcasts. Duke also appears being a guest on Strange Familiars and the Bigfoot Outlaws. Wow. With all that, help me welcome Duke to Hastings, Nebraska and the Sasquatch. Howdy.
All right. Sorry about the extremely long intro, because like I did lots of things, so I had to tell you about them. Since I am doing video and picture presentation, anybody that wants to get best possible view, I encourage you to move forward, because it's not that easy getting these guys on video to start with. And so, of course, we'll do the best we can with what we got. That guy was driving through the mountains, the Sapphire Mountains, and he was just driving along. He's another Bigfoot researcher from over in Idaho. And while he was there, he's driving up the pass and he's looking over to his left-hand side and he sees this X structure and he goes, "No way, that can't be an actual X structure, it's way too gigantic." So he's curious. He pulls over and he looks across the river and he's like, "Wow, I'm gonna have to wade through this icy river and go over there and check it out, because this is just too intriguing." And so he did. He got a stick and the river's about like that deep and it's like liquefied ice. So he goes wading over there trying to not get pushed down the river by the current. Climbs up the embankment about 10 feet, and on top of the embankment there's this X structure. So he took pictures of it, which, let's go through those now. Okay. And the first one, of course, is the X structure from across the road as he saw it originally and pulled up and saw the thing and went, "Is that an X structure?" Yeah. Well, like I said, he went across the river, went to check it out, and then when he got there, he started documenting, is this really an X structure? Is either one of these pushed over? Is there a root system here? Did they grow here? The answer is no. Both of these were literally taken from somewhere else and moved into place. And I talked to several of the loggers up there and showed them this picture and said, "Okay, you got two lodgepole pines there. How big are we looking at?" And they said, "Well, according to our guesstimation on one that size, what we're looking at is about 6,000 pounds each." So something can pick up 3 tons and walk around with it and put it into position. Got that? It's gone. Okay. There you go. There you go. There's Richard. He's standing underneath it. I got this picture. I was on the other side of the river from it, zoomed in a little bit so you can see the scale on it. This one is not completely symmetrical. It doesn't have the crossing of the X right in the middle of it. It's a little bit lower. There's one end of it, as you can see. That ain't from there. And the same thing with the other one. The other one actually was placed in between the fork on a fallen tree, so that the bottom of it wouldn't be able to skid and move anywhere. And because of their careful placement, the thing held into position, as you can see right there. For 3-4 years, I think the other side of it, something happened and it fell down, and then this one eventually came down too. But anyway, that was enough to alert us to that there's probably Sasquatch up here, because something made that thing. So then I got up there with my team, and here we are looking up from the side of it. As you can see, it's all the bark's ripped off of it too. And the other trees around there is no such state of destruction on them. Although some of the larger ones around it also had bark missing from the very top of them, like something had been climbing up and down and knocked all the bark off. So that was how we found the place, and I started going up there with my team every month during the summer for years, and I'd go up there during the winter, but you can't get there during the winter, the pass is closed. So we've only got the opportunity of May through September, sometime in October, they generally close the pass. And when I'll tell everybody what my research area is. My research area is the Sapphire Mountains. So if you want to go and check the whole 120 miles of Sapphire Mountains, figure out where it is, there you go. One of the things that's down the pass is the Super TV, which I am trying to show you the top of right now, where all of it comes together. And you can see that that's pretty weird looking, and not made by people. In the foreground is Michael, who's trotting through the woods there, heading over to it. Here again is the top of this teepee structure. This particular one, 30, 40 feet, which by our standards is not ridiculously incredible, but that is a big structure. It's got 7 trees on it. None of them were moved into place. All of these were pushed over, and yet somehow you've got this whole weird intertwined thing happening on top. It's obviously not storm that caused it, because then all the other trees around it will all be torn up too. And you can see that they're not. This is very synthetic looking. Something made this. That's not normal. And we've been in this area a few times. Every time we go up there, we go and check it. Because generally you find tracks around there. It's right next to a river. Apparently right next to the river used to be where the wagons went through with covered wagon days. It's all overgrown now. Most of that trail is missing. But the parts of it that are still there are being used by the local wildlife. And so we go and check those, because you oftentimes find Bigfoot tracks there too. Here we are looking at the teepee from underneath it. There's the top parts coming together. I think this is the same one. There's more than one teepee there, so I apologize if I got the top one and the other ones in here. There's the main one. And again, that just does not look very natural at all. And so again, this cued us in that there's that much activity up here. If they're building these gigantic structures, we need to go canvass the area a lot more, which has taken us years. We've literally been going there for about 7 years now, at least once a month during the warmer months, checking out what we can find there, finding more structures. And later on here in the presentation, I'll show you where they're actually building a structure. It's under construction. We found it right when they were starting building on it. And last year, every month when we were up there, we'd go back to it and document it, and then compare the video to the previous video we got. And they were changing things. They were building stuff on it. Here we're back at the Super Teepee, and this is one of the times. All this stuff is from, except for some of the structure pictures, all the video on here is from last summer.
Everybody.
Okay, so when we were there at the Super Teepee, and I was just randomly filming, I always like to really have a heightened awareness of what's going on around me. And a lot of the times when you're walking around in these areas, you can feel that they're there. They're watching you. You can feel their eyes on you. And sometimes you can even feel what direction it's coming from. There's the river there, turning around. And look at the amount of there's a lot of these are drag-ins. They're not deadfall. They don't have a root system or anything. They're drug in from somewhere else. And they like to do this around their gigantic megastructures. It makes it impassable. So idiotic humans don't just wander in there and find their stuff, because what moron would want to walk through that, well, other than us? And yeah, that's literally about 100 yards in each direction from that Super Teepee is what all of this looks like. They've got all kinds of little constructions and stuff in there. So now I'm getting the feeling there's something watching me. So I zoom in over here on it, which I'm glad that I did, because at the time I was zooming in, I couldn't make out what I was looking at. That's a Bigfoot's head right there. He's peeking over that log watching me. And I can't take the credit for finding that one. Blaine Tyler from Northeast Ontario, Bigfoot Barn, another YouTube channel he's been on for 10 years, spotted it. And I asked him, I said, how did you see that? And he said, well, it's got hair on it. The light's reflecting off the hair. Stumps don't do that. And okay, well, you're way better at this than I am. Thanks. You know? So anyway, this one isn't the most clearest one, obviously, but yeah, he's there. And he's peeking down. You can see his eyes and his nose just above the log. He's looking at us, peeking over the log, laying on the ground. So again, this is one of those things where, as Robin talks about, you don't want to get your camera directly on them for very long. They can mess with it. And I only had my camera on him for a couple seconds. So there's his eyes and his nose, the top of his head. He didn't think I was really looking at him. And I wasn't sure what I was looking at. I just thought there's something over there watching me. And this happens a lot. Very rarely do I actually see them in real time and zoom in on them. Most of the time is we find them in the background afterwards because they're so good at being stealthy and hiding. We got one later on that broke protocol and actually moved while he was on camera, which was a younger one. So you'll be able to see that one that's coming up here. But again, there he is, typical Sasquatch lying on the ground, peeking over a log. The other thing you find they do a lot is they'll hide behind brush, bushes, trees, peek around the side of the trees and look at you. And yeah, so trying to find spots like that over again and to shoot a comparison shot, not particularly easy. And that's one of the problems we run into perennially, which is, okay, now we got something on camera, we got to go back and find the exact same spot. And I mean like within 2 square feet of where you filmed it originally, and then try and look again. You can see the light there shining off his head. That's a plane cued in on. And fortunately for me, I have a bunch of really incredibly excellent Bigfoot researchers that work with me. And whenever I put out a piece of video, they like to go through it and see what they can spot in there. And then they'll send me timestamps and screen captures and go, hey Duke, you got one over here. Joyce Gray at Bama Bigfoot particularly enjoys doing that, especially when there's a really scary one that's close to me that I didn't see. Apparently she likes giving me PTSD. And every time I give her a shout out on the show, hey, thanks for helping me with that. And now I'm going to have PTSD for another week. Love you. Super Teepee Timber Tangle Peekers. Again, this is very, very near the Super Teepee. We walked upriver from it. And as I was walking up, there was a whole tangle, a bunch of different timber there that was all tangled up that they had actually obviously constructed something. And I went, okay, what's going on here? And as you can see, there's one right there. And there's his eyes, and there's his hair. He's peeking over a log looking at me. There's actually 3 of them in this one tangled log pile. And the reason I caught them is because they didn't expect me to do what I did, which is I walked right up one of their tree structures, because their tree structures are so big, it's like a scaffolding. It's not going to collapse with our pitiful little human weight on it. So you can walk right up them. So I walked up one that was about 7 feet tall, and I was hanging onto a tree with one hand, filming with the camera with the other hand. And here's what it looked like. Now, keep in mind, I'm about 7 feet off the ground right now. And I see something odd in this, there he is. And yep, they're hiding underneath that tangle of timber there watching me. And that was really fast. That's how you do it, because then they don't think you're actually filming them. You don't go, woohoo, I saw a Sasquatch. No. There's his face. Let's see both the eyes and the mouth there. There he is. And there's a little one that's sort of behind him to his right, and then there's another one that's peeking up over the log beyond that, also on his right. And again, I apologize for the focus on this. You know, it's on big screen. Sorry, it wasn't shot with Hollywood quality film. We've got a handy cam. The one that I'm filming right now, that one is the one I used. So there you go. And again, we'll go through this quite a bit slower so that you guys can see, hopefully, the images on there a little bit better. And there's one up in the tree in the background watching us. So trying to balance, trying to zoom in. There's one sticking his head over the pile, looking at me. Camera's about to focus in a bit. You see those little glow, shiny things? That's a little one. His eyes are looking straight up. And there's the bigger brown adult that's laying down there looking at me. I think there's actually another one back in there too, but we can't get enough of a focus on it to be able to make out anything for sure. So at least we got 3 of them in that pile right there. And this is typical of them. They'll just take up a position in some absurd place that, you know, you're just not going to get there and get anywhere near them. So they're perfectly safe. No crazy human's going to climb up 7 feet in the air to film us, right? Okay, this one again was the same place. We just took this one last September. I had William Lunsford, the Hawk Monster Hunter, and Eric Adventure Man, who usually does UFO research, up there with me. And I took both them up to show them the Super Teepee. And as we got up there, Eric was lagging in the back filming us. And in this clip, you'll see him filming me and Mike. And then he turns the camera to his right. And when he gets over to his right, he doesn't realize it, but he's got a Sasquatch on camera. The Sasquatch realizes it and ducks out of the way to hide. There's me and Mike. Here comes the pan. Another one in the back there. Okay. There's a face. They're zooming in on them. They're looking right here. That little blue thing, we don't know what that is. That's a face right there. And we'll show you in a second. These are all screen captures from it. And again, there's the same spot. You can notice it looks different because he ducked. He ducked behind the tree and hid. There's also 2 more of them in the foreground below him, which are apparently like having a little push fight with each other or something. Again, breaking standard Sasquatch protocol. If you are on camera, do not move, freeze up. Humans rely on seeing things move. And the 2 littler ones in the branches there, lower, apparently thought. There's one of them, it has some kind of a, I don't know what it is, a pet or something with it. We haven't been able to ID what kind of animal that is. And apparently there's another one that's below them right there, which ducks over to the side behind the tree. So we'll get through that. You see him duck? And there's still movement going on back there. And he's going to stick his head out again right at the last second before the camera goes off. And look, whoops, still over there. And we're going to go through it again, slower look, so hopefully you can all catch him moving. Bringing the camera around. There's one right there in the lower left. Okay, we're almost on the right spot here. There's that blue thing. Watch right next to it. That's where that face is. That's just about to panic. And he ducks. As you can see, the littler ones in the foreground continue moving because there's still movement going on there. And Eric is zooming back out again, and right before he turns the camera off, it pokes its head around to look and see if he's still got the camera on. One last time, we do not know what that blue thing is. We have no idea. Several people, including Robin McCrae, have looked at it. And I don't know, it now a stuffed toy from some kid or what it is. I mean, it looks like a being of some sort. It's got like 2 eyes on it or something. We have no idea what that thing is. Still jockeying for position. Hey, is that human still filming this? Okay, now we're going on to the Mega TV. This one I showed a partial build on it because we've actually caught them in the process of making this thing, and every month we go up there, we document it, walk around, film the whole thing, and then compare the video to the month we got before, the previous month's video. and see if they made any changes. And every time they've changed something on it. This one started out with just a basic huge X structure, which you can still see in the middle of it as I pan down here. There's the X right there. It's kind of silvery white. And that's what was there the year before. Then when we came back, all of a sudden all this other timber was there. And it was mostly all over there on the left-hand side. They had a whole bunch of stuff that they had pushed into position or moved in to make part of a teepee. Now since then, they filled in the whole right side of it. And we went there in August, and they had actually, there was a live pine tree about 40 feet tall right next to it. And that time when we came up there, they had bent the whole top of the pine tree underneath it, which the month before was standing straight up. There was no weather conditions that could cause that in the intermediary month. So somebody did it. And yeah, I wish I would have actually put a picture of what it looks like on here now, because it's even more ridiculous. That was about 5 stories tall. Now if you go up the hill from there, where there's a big ridge line up there, and that's what cued us into this area in the first place. Me and Mike were just walking along doing a survey, and I spotted this ridiculously big X structure. So I had Mike stand on the ridge line right where we had first spotted it, and just film it. I'll walk down there for scale so everybody will be able to see how large this thing actually is. And so that's what's coming up here in a second. We got some Super X's. This isn't the biggest Super X. This is one of the tertiary X's that they built since then. And these are all on the same ridge line. They've got 2 of them this size that are on that ridge line now. And if you're in the right position, you can see one from the other. And then if you go about the same distance to it'd be the left on the camera screen here, you'll end up where the 6-story tall Super X used to be. That apparently they've deconstructed for some reason. And at the same time they took that one down is when they started building that mega teepee down in the valley beyond it. So again, same thing, symmetrical. Both sides are the same diameter. They ripped all of the bark off them, so they're really bloody obvious. And that seems to be the way they like to do most of that stuff. They make it really, really obvious. That's Shane from Spokane, Washington. One of my research team members shows up occasionally, standing underneath it, filming it for scale. Give you an idea on how big these structures are, which is ridiculously big. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention is in this presentation, I'm going to cover 2 big subjects. First of all, does X ever mark the spot? Well, yeah. Second thing is, does size matter? When you're trying to convince people that Bigfoot are actually making these structures, you get something that big, okay, you explain it to me where that came from. Because we're finding things that absolutely are not natural. And there are not huge teams of lumberjacks out in the woods making this stuff for no reason. These things are not near any trail. They're not near a fire lane. They're not near a game path. There's no game trails going into these areas where they have these giant structures. Because guess what? They're hanging around there all the time. And if some random animal just wanders in, they're on the menu. So they stay away from these superstructures. And I'm showing you where the other X is over there. Zooming in on it, see it? There you go. You can see the one X from the other one. And that's a long ways away. Where those 2 pieces cross on that X again is about like 25, 30 feet. So this is the mega X that isn't there anymore, but this is why we started really canvassing that area, because we were walking this ridge line and randomly came on this thing. And yeah, it's ridiculous. We're guesstimating about 6 stories because of the scale of me standing underneath it, known height, and then you just stack knees on top of me until you get up to the middle of the structure, which would be about 30 feet. So this is where we discovered it. Mike's standing on the bridge line where we came over and saw it, and I'm walking down underneath it to give a sense of proportion and scale for everyone so they can see what it is they're looking at. Also notice that kind of sideways tree that's a leaner on the bottom of it. That was moved into position. There is no stump, root ball, or anything on that whole full-size tree that's laying at an angle up against it. And there you go. I'm pretty much right underneath it. So anybody ever seen an X structure bigger than that? I'd like to know where it was. And Mike's coming down to take a look. I'm walking around to see if these were actually placed there or if they were pushed into position. And yeah, how improbable is that? Very improbable. And no, they had both been pushed into position. This one we couldn't ascertain for sure. The other one definitely been pushed in. So we're taking a look at how they put this thing together. And the center tree that's got the little Y in it there is still standing, yet for some reason both sides of it are down. The other thing that we documented is that over the course of us going back here for a couple years, they've drug in a lot more deadfall and made it even more difficult to get in and out of there. So here's the next time that we came there, we decided to just get, you know, another follow-up shot to show everyone how ridiculously huge this thing is. And again, in this case, size does matter, because what we're trying to do is show people that these things are not natural. Someone is making them. And guess what? It isn't us. Just ridiculously gigantic stuff. At the beginning of the presentation, we showed Richard Williams, who had the Williams X that, you know, kind of found this whole area to start with. And he was at the International Bigfoot Conference over in Kensington, Washington, and one of the speakers there was talking about how they don't believe that Bigfoot makes tree structures. And when they were further pressed by somebody in the audience to explain that, they said, well, I just don't see any evidence for it. I think Boy Scouts are making them. Okay. Well, unfortunately for him, Richard Williams, the guy that took the pictures of the Williams X, was standing right there at the bottom of the ramp when he came down off the stage with 8x10 glossies of it, and put that under his nose and said, tell me what Boy Scouts made this. And I've got the pictures of the smug grin being wiped off his face at that moment. It's very nice. Okay, this is Big Mama at the Mega X. Now this is after they had taken the X down, and I think it was first or second time we had been up there after that, and we were kind of confused, like, why did they take this giant marker down? What's going on to that? And I had already shot a sequence up there where we had caught a young female on camera. Again, Blaine Tyler from Northeast Ontario, Canada, is the one that spotted her. And he said, hey, you know, you got one in the background over here. There's Big Mama peeking up over the log looking at me. She's not too happy. She's got Baby hiding behind a stump in the foreground. Baby is looking down the hill toward his sister, who is on the other side of a tertiary X structure. And this is when we caught her on video. There's Big Mama. She's kind of looking like she's not too happy. I'm about to walk in between her and one of her kids, which I don't know she's there, and I don't know the kids are there. I'm walking around filming structures, and I'm catching her by accident, and all the other stuff there. So here's the original sequence. As you can see, the massive amount of timber tangle that's lying all over the place there to dissuade foolish humans from walking in there. And yeah, you can just imagine how much fun it is walking through about a mile of this to get back one of these things. And there's your head. It's been peeking up over the log. You're going to get another chance to look at it. As I'm trying to fight my way through the timber here. There's the X. I wanted to film that since they had taken the main X down. Okay, they still got this little secondary X there. There it is. One side's kind of upside down. Okay. And here's where Blaine spotted one in the background with his incredibly sharp eyes as I was zooming in on this. It's hard to see because it's so fuzzy. But on a more regular computer screen, you can see this pretty clear. Object on the right-hand side is gray female Sasquatch. And there I am zooming in on the same spot. She ain't there. And yeah, trying to find that same spot in the woods. Oh, there's one right there. There's Big Mama again. She's laying behind that log watching me. And this is another one that Joyce Gray from Bama Bigfoot found. and gleefully sent me the screen capture and went, hey, walk about 30 feet from this one. Thank you, I begged. There's mom, there's baby. Man, I'm just going to slow this segment down a little bit. Yeah. Hey, big mama. We had photo analysts take a look at this. One of my friends sent him the screen crop and said, hey, what is this? Is this a stump or something? And the guy actually does photo analysis for military. And about 2 hours later, he called him back and said, where did you get this from? And he said, well, it came from a piece of video. Well, can I see the video? So he sent him the link to take a look at the video. And then apparently about 2 days later, he got back to him. And my friend said, well, what's your analysis? And he said, well, it's not a stump. It's not a rock. That's an inanimate object. I don't know what the hell that thing is. And that was his analysis. Official analysis. Here we got more peekers at the Mega X. And again, I am back there trying to film follow-up video for comparison shots to see if, you know, what we got on the camera was just pareidolia, if it was a shadow, you know, if we just think there's something there. No, there's something there. There's a little one right here. I catch him on camera and zoom right in on him. And he was a smart one. He didn't move. There's a couple more right next to him, siblings likely. And then when you see the wider out shot on this side of the tree over here on the right, there's two adults. One's lying down. It's got a bush over part of its head, so you can't see it. And there's another one that's right behind it. You can see that one's head. But this is, again, one of those situations where I didn't hear them or see them or anything. They were right behind me while I was filming. And if you can, a lot of people can sense when they're being watched. And I could tell I was being watched by more than one something that were behind me. So I just turned around and with the naked eye, I'm looking for anything that looks out of place. We always joke about that. We call ourselves FAT, Forest Anomaly Team. We are FAT research. And not because we're fat, but we are. But it's because what we're looking for is forest anomalies. We're not looking specifically for Sasquatch and trying to visually cue in on what is the, you know, what is a Sasquatch. And in your brain, you've got this whole idea of it, but you're never going to see a whole one. You're only going to see parts of them. You'll see part of a face, you'll see part of a head, you'll see an arm with hand around the tree or something like that. So if you're just looking for, you know, I want to see the Jack-linked Sasquatch, you ain't going to see it. You're going to see little pieces of them when they're hiding in the bushes and stuff. And this is again another example. I'm zooming in on that same spot, looking for the object up there. It isn't there anymore. But down below they are. They're sitting in the same damn place watching me. And we'll show you those in a second. And again, Robin McCrae helped with this segment, and her, Blaine Tyler, and Bama Bigfoot helped me with a lot of this stuff because they're so much better at spotting them than I am. And if I think I find something, I'll send them to them. Robin has an extra edge on the other two who are just like masters at spotting these guys visually. Robin can actually see their energy signatures, and that includes when they're on film. So I can send her a picture and go, what is this, stump or something? And she'll go, nope, that's got an energy signature. That's a live being right there. There's a little one. And that's just how fast you do it. Okay. Problem with that shot is that the camera with autofocus wanted to focus in on the branch in front of them. And there's a mom probably and a little one that are sitting in that pile of brush watching me. And again, here's the ones that are directly behind me. There's the little guy with the eyes right there. And there he is again. There's a couple, like I said, there's a couple more over here. And then there's two more over here on this side. So I'm going to go through and show you this whole clip in slower motion as I zoom in and out on them, so it makes it a lot more obvious what you're looking at. 120B if you want to go see the original video. Here we go. What's over there? Is there something over there? And again, sorry if this looks fuzzy. If you want to see the much clearer version, you can find them on my channel. And just like glassing with binoculars, make sure you cover the whole area. In case there's anything in there, you spot it later. Like Robin said, they can be cloaked visually. where you can't even see them with your naked eye, but you'll spot them on the camera afterwards. The ones in this one, there's two of them that are back in the shadow to the right-hand side next to the tree, and then there's two of them that are in the foreground, probably a mom and a little baby in there that's sitting on her lap. They're watching me. And there's one of them. And again, anytime that we get any of this stuff that's suspicious, we go back to the exact same spot, film it again, see if it's still there. If it's a stump or something, it'll still be there. If you come back with video of the same spot and the object is not there, it is then an inanimate object. Stumps don't get around, move around by themselves. If it moved, well, it was something animate. And it'll look, you know, if you look in between the two logs on the bottom there, there's another head peeking out, another little one. Okay, so I'm speeding this part up because it's not relevant. And I'm getting ready to turn around. Here we go, we're zooming in. There's the log. There's the little guy. He was pretty smart, he didn't move at all. Neither did the big adults on the other side of the tree. You can see the one's head peeking up looking. And he just froze in position with his eyes big, like, uh-oh. I'm on camera, damn it! Yeah, so there's several of them behind me watching me again. And we've been up to this place consistently every month for a few years now. And just about every time we're up there, we catch something in the background watching us. And then we have to go back there again to shoot comparison video. And guess what happens when we go back and shoot comparison video? They're photobombing us again. And then we got to go back again. And that's not near the, that isn't anywhere near where we camp, so it's really painful getting there and back every time. Okay. What do we got coming up here? This is another one that Joyce spotted and, you know, delights in freaking me out. So she sent this one. Hey, Duke, you got a really big one right behind you. And Christy Sci-Fi, who did the presentation yesterday, is another person that took a second look at this one and went, yeah, you got a really big one right there behind you, Duke. So this one I had actually left camp, gone across the river where we don't usually go because it's kind of off limits. That's their spot. And walked up the hill behind it because I had never been up there. I wanted to see how tall it was. Well, as it turned out, it was a lot taller than we thought when we were sitting at the bottom down in camp there. And I'm up on that ridge right there and I'm filming across the valley. I'm all super excited. You can see all the way across the valley from up there. Isn't this cool? Yeah. And I get the feeling you're behind me, watching me. So just because that's how you do it, I turned around to my right briefly, brought the camera back, and then brought it back on target again. So in case there's anything behind me, and it killed me, I would hopefully get it on video. And there he is. And you can tell he is a big boy. He is not hanging in the tree, he's standing. What's that up there? That's his nose. That's his nose and one of his eyes. He is a very big boy. Height estimate, not sure. Again, we're going to have to go back there and shoot a comparison video this summer, coming up here in a couple months. There's his outline, there's his eyes. And I'm guessing he likes me and he has a smile. We don't know about that part. But he didn't squish me, although he was right behind me, about 30 feet behind me, sure could have. But I could definitely tell there was somebody watching me behind me, and I had nobody with me and no weapons. The rest of my team was about 150 yards upriver. So I had to like kind of brazen it out and turn the camera and just keep walking and narrating. And I could feel he was right behind me. Then I got to a big pile of timber, all fallen trees and stuff that were heavy enough to support me. And I walked across them on purpose because that couldn't walk across them without making it move. Way too big and heavy. And apparently he went around because the next segment we got, we're down at the giant asterisk structure, which is just upriver from there. And it looks like him and another one that's almost the same size are standing behind a pine tree over there watching us while we're filming everything. So again, here's the top of the hill. I'm turning to my left and getting ready to go walking out of there. Because again, although I did not see him on camera when I filmed him, I could definitely feel he was there watching me, and it was a very creepy feeling. So now here we are about 150 yards upriver from where I just filmed that last one. And Mike and our guest, Erin Lane Moffett, who has a really cool channel called Abby Someone, and she lives in Billings, Montana. So it was her first time ever going on a Bigfoot expedition, and she only lives a 6-hour drive away. So she came over to visit with us and spend a weekend, run around the woods looking for the big guys. And there's that asterisk structure, which is absolutely enormous. And in this sequence, we don't have a human underneath it for scale. But where all those parts come together is about 25, 30 feet in the air. So again, it's just ridiculously big. There's other markers around this too. There's a white X further up the hill from it. And if you go down the hill and you're facing it like I am right there, to your left-hand side, there is also a black X structure. And we got the lovely Erin Lane Moffett to stand underneath it for scale and be our glamour girl, so everybody could get an idea on how big that one was. So now I'm standing there filming that one. That's Erin and Mike's feet. Those are not Bigfoot. Actually, as I was coming down from the ridgeline, I yelled to these guys. I got it on video of me yelling at them and then coming down. And as I came down, I found a 17-inch track in between the top of the ridgeline and where we're at down here, and filmed that too. Not included in this video, not enough time. But all of these stuff, if you want to see all the videos surrounding it, everything that has to do with all these little individual clips, it all starts at episode 120 and goes through to the end of the summer. And you can see all this stuff, including the ones we didn't show you, that there's several of them in there. I just caught one the other day when I was putting this together, where Erin is posing underneath the tree about 30 feet to her right. There's one laying on the ground peeking over a tree watching her, which we never even caught until recently. I believe the last speaker here, Robin caught this guy, and she's got a couple more here that she noticed. Bama Bigfoot also confirmed on them. As you can see, this one's further up, he's in the tree, and watching. Hey, what are you dumb humans doing? Get away from our structure. These guys are very mild-tempered, extremely mild. I've always been very respectful with them, very patient, not pushing them, not being up there bugging them all the time. And that's one of the problems some of the researchers have. They get too excited, they want to be there all the time. Well, maybe they don't want you there all the time. And maybe you're annoying them because you're there all the time. So if you want better relations with them, you got to keep in mind, they're not show ponies. These aren't toys that you're playing with. These are real living beings just like us, and probably smarter than some of us. And as long as you act respectfully, and the natives will all tell you this, it's a combination of two things. Be respectful to them and your attitude. If you've got a nice positive attitude, you're peaceful, you're not walking in there like Rambo armed with machine guns and flamethrowers. And you know, if you're terrified of them, what reaction should they take from that? Well, this idiot thinks I'm a monster and he's going to shoot me. I don't want to get anywhere near him. So you got to have the courage to go, okay, these ones in this area are trustworthy. They're not going to hurt me. There's Erin underneath the big X structure. Showing that one. And again, this is just right over the right of where the enormous asterisk structure is. And there it is. When we were there in September with William Lunsford, we found yet another structure coming up from the river toward it, because we had never gone in that way before. We don't usually go across the river where this thing is. And they had some kind of an A glyph that they had hanging from a tree, which is extremely peculiar. When I saw it, I went, a human had to have made this. Where's the nails on it? No. No nails, no twine, no nothing cut with a saw. And there's Erin. Erin's about 5'8". I'll give you an idea on the scale. And that pan went across so fast you couldn't see the other Sasquatch there. But if you go back and look at my channel, you go frame by frame and you can see them. Now this one, we're way further down the pass. We're out of the hidden valley, and we're actually close to where the super teepee is. And as we were checking, we saw what looked like an X structure up on the hill. So Mike walked up to see if it really was or not, and it wasn't. It was an optical illusion. It was two trees that were the same size fallen, and from one perspective it looked like an X structure, but when you got up on it, they weren't laying against each other. In all actual X structures, they will be laying against each other. So this one, I actually spotted these guys at the time that I was trying to film them. The one down there in the bottom is what caught my attention, because it looked, you know, end on, like there was a couple logs lying on the ground there. And the one that caught my attention, well, the log looks like it has eyes on it. So maybe I should zoom in on the log and see if it does in fact have eyes. There's Mike. Mike caught a couple on the piece of video he was filming too. So, like it says, I thought I noticed something odd looking over to the right, zoomed in on it. And yes, there was not one, but two of them there. I did not see the second one until way afterwards. The little black one lying on the ground there is the one that I was looking at. And I'm like balancing on a rock on this uneven slope, so the camera's bouncing all over the place. Sorry about that, guys. Do the best I can with what I've got. And again, you want to see the more clearer images, you can go to my channel and watch this. But there's two of them. There's one down here. And that's another one right there. You can see the side of his head, his eye, nose, and another eye. And that one freaks me out. I'm not sure what that is. I hope it's a patterned balding Sasquatch and not some kind of troll or something. But we've caught other, you know, this is about Sasquatch, so we're not going to show pictures of some of the other weird anomalous things that we've caught on video up there. But it sort of goes hand in hand. If you find an area that's that active with Sasquatch, you're very likely to have other cryptids there. And until last summer, I was willing to tell everybody there probably weren't any dogmen in my area until I caught one on video. And then I went, okay, well, apparently they're in my area. I caught one on video. And that one was disturbing because we had several Sasquatch that were standing watching me, and I just kind of did a pan around and didn't even really look at the video until, geez, a couple months later I showed it, and one of my friends said, it looks like there's one standing next to a tree. So I went through it frame by frame to see what was in there. Yeah, there was a bunch of them in there, including a dog man who was poking his head around a tree like that, looking at me. You could see his whole snout, the top of his head and his eye and everything. So there they are, way too close, but it's our fault because we just walked into their area. There's two more of them upriver from me that are nice and stationary and not at all obvious. And then, again, until we looked at the video frame by frame, we didn't notice them. Robin spotted them. I think Damn Bigfoot Joyce Gray spotted one of them too. And there's his eyes peeking out at me. And another bigger one lying next to him. And there's no trail or anything in this area. We just saw this little stream from the road and went, well, that looks pretty. Let's walk up there. And yeah, so we walked up there. And that's what we saw, a bunch of them watching us going, hey, you guys should be up here. Oh, yeah, you're right. There's the two that are upriver from us. They stayed stationary, so didn't spot them until I looked at the video afterwards. And again, it's not the T-Rex in Jurassic Park that cues in on movement. It's humans. If we don't see something move, we just usually don't notice it, and they know that. So all they have to do is sit still, and we'll just think it's a stump, or a rock, or a shadow next to a tree, or one of those things. And it's not. And again, you can even, you know, I try and convince myself some of the stuff is pareidolia until we go back to the same place and film comparison video, and it's not there. Well, at that point it's like, yeah, we got something on camera because it ain't there. It's not here the second time. And they're way upriver from me. You can see that one peeking around the edge of the greenery there looking. Okay. And we are to the end of the visual part of the presentation, except for a little bit of addenda here. And that is the guy that I saw on my first sighting in 1972 when I was in Minnesota. Somebody did a mock-up, a really nice artistic representation of this. They got fairly close, they got the teeth wrong. The eye should be a little bit bigger. That thing was very scary. And yeah, and that's not a Wookiee, so don't hug it. And don't hug the regular Wookiees either, it annoys them. So I didn't bring any swag with me. If you want to get some swag out of Swag Shop, teesprings.stores/World Bigfoot Radio, or World Bigfoot Central. There you go, it's on the screen. And we got all kinds of pretty stuff there. So if you want to get any swag from me, I didn't bring anything with me. I had to come all the way over here from Missoula, Montana by bus. So I wasn't dragging anything extra that I absolutely didn't need with me on this trip. But there you go, swag. That's pretty much the end of the visual presentation that I've got. And I'm ready to take some questions. And
Okay, we got about 5 minutes, Duke. Anybody have a question? There's a lot of cool stuff. We've got one right up here in the front.
Duke, I listened to you talk about mountain giants, and I'm wondering, up in the area that you were looking at these Bigfoot, have you seen any evidence of any giants up that way?
that's one of the things we defaulted to initially, because when we started finding these structures that were so colossal, we were just like, can a regular Bigfoot even make this stuff? It's so huge. But we've never found a mountain giant track up there, and we found several hundred Bigfoot tracks of all sizes, everything from, you know, like a small human up to 21 inches, and everything in between. There's a lot of them up there. We found zero evidence of mountain giants there. On the other hand, if you go to about 30 miles from where I live into the Gemstone Mountain Range, we found a mountain giant track there. Michael found it, and it was about 26 inches long, 4 toes, and we don't go in that area anymore.
We got one right over here, dude. This is Zach. He's got a question.
Do they count Bigfoot like endangered?
What's their status? I mean, I know they're not officially recognized, but can you talk about their population and this sustainability? I think is what Zach is asking about.
That's a huge guess. You get lots of crazy estimates all over the place from that. How many are there? Where do they live? They live everywhere. Until recently, I thought they didn't live in Hawaii, but now I've got a couple reports from people that they have been actually seen there too. So anywhere you can imagine, including the desert Southwest, up in Alaska, you know, they can pretty much take advantage of any environment, so they're amazing at doing that. They don't need fire like we do. Cold doesn't affect them. Population estimates, hard to know. Bear from Bigfoot Outlaws will tell you that just in the state that he's in, down in the Deep South, he thinks there's at least 2,000 of them. And he gets that estimate from about 30 years of field research, being out in all different areas all over the state, and noting that the ones that they're running into are not the same ones they ran into over here, like maybe 10 miles away. So there's little groups of them all over the place. So extrapolating from the density within the areas that he had been researching, and then putting it all together, he figures like 2,000 just in the state. There's a lot of them, a lot. And part of the problem with that is, in order to have a Bigfoot report, you have to have two things. You have to have a Bigfoot, and you have to have a witness that sees the Bigfoot. And then beyond that, they have to report it. And maybe only 10% of the people that see a Bigfoot actually make a report. So 90% of the time when somebody's seeing a Bigfoot, nobody else ever hears about it. They don't bother to report it. And the other thing that comes in here is how many people there are in an area. Because you might have a state that doesn't have a whole lot of Bigfoot reports out of it, that's swarming with Bigfoot, because there's not very many people there. So in order to have the report, you have to have somebody seeing one. See what I'm saying? So some of these states like Oregon, Washington, they say, you know, like, well, you got 500 reports, or we got 800 reports. How many million people do you have? We got 300 reports in Montana. We have only 1 million people there. So if you're going by per capita numbers, Montana and Alaska have the most Bigfoot. If you're going by sighting numbers, other states do. Little known fact, the state that has the most Bigfoot reports out of it is Oklahoma. There's over 1,200. And I would not think that would be where they live.
Duke, one back over here.
I realize that on those dead trees, the bark slowly does just fall off, but on some of that, it will not. Do you see any evidence of tool that they've used to strip that bark, or how are they getting that bark off, and why would they even do that? That's the work.
Good question. Yeah, exactly. Some of the stuff that they're using, that they're moving into position, the bark is already in process of falling off. They just tear the rest of it off. They're using their hands, man. They don't need tools to do that. No, anything that can move a 6,000-pound tree doesn't need tools to tear bark off.
We got one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up before we turn it back to Kenny has an announcement.
It's okay. I was just going to have
one more question.
I actually have two questions. One, would you say that this group that you see a lot is one family unit, or do you think there's multiple there?
Great question. I think it's multiple family units because there's so many of them there. And even as much as within a family unit, they will look very different than each other. It's not like humans where, you know, you can look at somebody and go, hey, you're so-and-so's sister. Because you look like them.
So to that question and to his question, is there an estimate of that? Like I've heard, and from what I've read, that a lot of families are 3 or 4, maybe all the way up, and then the clans can be bigger. How big has the evidence shown or research shown that some of the clans, do they get big in numbers?
I think it's totally dependent on what the carrying capacity of the area that they're in is. If they're out in the middle of nowhere where there aren't humans to pester them and they've got a big enough area to roam around in, enough food supplies, and keeping in mind they eat a lot. And that's one of the reasons people think that they're migratory, because they have to move around a lot to take advantage of their food. But even an animal like a black bear will have an area of 40 square miles they wander around in. And the Sasquatch do the same thing. Oh, we got to go a few miles over here because those berries are ripe now. We're going to eat all of them. And 3 days later, we're going to go over to so-and-so's orchard and eat all their apples. And meanwhile, we're going to mug a bunch of deer along the way and eat them. So their whole life a lot of it is occupied by where's the next pile of food coming from, let's go get it. And this is one of the reasons that they work in groups, just like we do, because it really maximizes the amount of time they have to do things with other than gathering food. If you got one lone individual running around the woods protecting themselves and trying to fend for themselves, that's really a problem. It could take a lot of time to make sure you're getting fed every day. But if you got a whole family unit, one's going picking roots, another one's getting berries, the third one's mugging a deer, everybody works about 2 hours, and then they got, 22 hours a day to harass humans and watch us. So,
And they have a balanced meal.
and they got a balanced meal too.
She has a follow-up question.
And my second thing is, I actually lived and worked in Yellowstone for like a year and a half, and I spent a lot of time in the Gallatin National Forest, and I'm kind of curious, do you think that because those areas have a lot of foot traffic from tourists and things, that's why there isn't a lot of evidence, or do you think it's because they have so much competition with other things like the bears and the wolves and things like that?
Bears and wolves aren't really competition for them. They're not a threat either. Bears are on the menu. There's a report from a Yellowstone ranger who said it was either 86 or 96, he found a full-grown grizzly bear's carcass, and he couldn't figure out what killed it. So he got up close and he started looking at it. Its head was caved in. It was a full-grown grizzly bear. And most of the rest of his body was turned to mush. And what had done this was a uprooted tree that was still laying right next to him, that something had pummeled him with and beat him to paste with it. And there were 18-inch tracks of someone who did that all around the carcass. In the northwest part of Yellowstone, we've got a lot of reports of hostile cryptids in that area. So if you get too far outside the campgrounds in there, I would recommend don't go there.
So the moral of the story is do not upset Sasquatch. Is that what our takeaway is?
That's pretty much it, yeah. If you upset them, you could be in a lot of trouble because they can beat a grizzly bear to paste with a log.
So I know myself and Duke are what's holding you from your dinner, so we're going to wrap it pretty quick. But Duke is going to be here the rest of the day.
Yep. Got any more questions or anything, come on up and ask me.
We'd love to answer your questions and talk more. Just like all of the vendors and the presenters, feel free to make the rounds. We have one quick announcement from one of the bosses here. Let me turn this over to Kenny.
Oh, I know you guys are hungry, but we have a good friend in Russia named Igor Verstev. I just want to do a group picture. Everybody just kind of say happy birthday to him. It would be special to him.
Dr. Igor Burtsev.
Doctor. He doesn't like to be called doctor. He's told me that. So that's just that. Yeah, I'll just do a shot.
We're going to be back at 1. We have a vendor right
Hold on, Hambone. Let's make sure we get a big round of applause for Duke.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I apologize for getting out. Great questions. There's food around the corner. Those ice cream, it's supposed to be ice cream in the parking lot, and then be back at 1. And don't forget to stop and say hi to the vendors. Thanks, everybody.
We're out in the garden at the Nebraska Bigfoot Museum. And there's this little walking path back here. You can see there is the official proclamation, Library of Congress, the United States of America, Washington, D.C. proclamation, December 22, 2021. Bigfoot Crossroads of America Museum and Research Center officially inducted. And the little bitty person on the right, that's Harriet. We'll be talking to her later on. Size of a wall, a 3-story wall. This is not the great white buffalo, it is the great buffalo covered with white. Nice mural though. You see a lot of this in these little towns up here where if there's an open wall somewhere they just want to put a mural on it for some reason. Anything thought that was interesting? Main Street, Buffalo, Wyoming. What's over this way? Let's go see. There's an old building. It has statue. And what's back up there? This is the main street we just came through. Lots of old buildings. What's over that way? Getting ready to take off here again. See, there's another example. Greetings from Buffalo. And they had a big mural on the side of the wall. So your typical micro town in Wyoming. Going west. Little dinky foothills here. Big mountains in the background. Well, it's about 20 minutes later. We're getting closer to the mountain range. Yeah, been going toward it for about 20 minutes now, and it's gradually getting closer. Those are mountains. As usual, I can't see anything on the screen because the sun is always behind me. But this is going off toward Big Timber. As you can see, there's not only big timber, there's big mountains. And this is the same mountain range we've been driving toward for about half an hour. Finally, it's starting to get closer. And if you go look that direction, you can see more mountains over that way too. And once we pan past this little hill, mountains over there, and back that way is where we came from, Billings and the big ugly side of Montana over there. There's really nothing to look at, and it's ugly. Going through Bozeman. Bozeman, no stops going through Bozeman. There's the spooky mountains covered with mist over there. And because we're going into kind of a little late rainstorm thingy here. That's what's going on right now. Even though it's early afternoon still, we're kind of So yeah, if I get a chance to film some more scenery, we'll come back. And we're coming out of the rainstorm. Still heading toward Butte. You can see the clouds up on top of the mountain there. Mountain shrouded in rain and mist. Here's where we're going. Oh, there you can see it, kind of. Town's way over there. We're heading that direction. There's Orthanc, I think. And there's Orthanc, I think. So we've driven so far that we've actually got to Middle Earth now. There's Sourman's Tower, Tower of Orthanc, at the Gap of Rohan, right there. Clearly that must be what it is, right? That is one big tower. I haven't seen this thing in years. I had heard they took it down, but no, it's still here. So apparently the Ents didn't knock it down or anything. There it is, it's still there. Sorry about the bouncing around. We do not have a level surface that we're driving on. There you go. I just thought that was really cool looking. Who needs New Zealand to film Lord of the Rings? You got the damn tower in the Gap of Rohan right here. There it is. Filming here. Closer to Missoula or near Phillipsburg, which is also close to my research area. Ooh. Yummy, yummy. Yeah, there's another look. About a half an hour from home here, coming up the valley. Just thought I'd show you a little bit of what it looks like.
So make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee.